Hi, I'm Kathy Callahan-Brady, and welcome to In the Trenches. And today we've got a special guest with us today. This is Will Randall, and thank you for coming.
Well, you're very welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate it so much. So this actually gets us an opportunity, a couple different opportunities. One, that our clients get the opportunity of knowing who you are, because you're now on our board. Thank you very much.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and you've really taken a huge leadership role in the whole Biotech Innovation Center committee as well.
Okay.
So that's we really appreciate that.
Yep.
And you've even jumped on the Strategic Growth and Advisory Board. And then I even sort of kind of volunteered you at the last board meeting.
Voluntold.
Yeah, the new Strategic Growth and Advisory Board, because we're growing so much, we're going to have to start a new one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 7:30 in the morning.
That's not awesome, but that's okay.
Yeah, maybe we can do something in the afternoon or evening. Switch
that
it
sounds
up.
good. That sounds good.
You'll like that one, right?
Yeah, I'll take the late shift.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit in terms of your business and what you do.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the business, right?
Yeah. So what's the current one and the one before that? 'Cause
right.
I think.
So I'll talk about my current day job. That's Randall CAP. By segue of our last business. So up until I think just about 2 years ago, I was CEO of the Frederick News Post, which had been in my family for 5 generations. When we sold that, I only really ended up getting rid of a third of my job because when I was running the newspaper, a third of my job was kind of doing this sort of thing, community engagement, community involvement, community leadership. A third of my job was actually running the newspaper, and then a third of my job was basically, all the other stuff for the family. So when you have a family business of 5 generations, things tend to get really complicated. We have different trusts, different real estate holdings, different LLCs, and it was my job to herd all of those cats. And so after we sold the newspaper, I told my family, hey, I'd be happy to keep doing this stuff. But I would kind of like you to pay me. And so I did a bunch of research. I put together a business plan for family office, and they decided, yep, we'd love to pay you for this. And so that's what we're doing now. We do management of trusts. We do property management. We do different levels of consulting and back office services. Primarily, the idea was to do that just for the family. But once we got set up, we realized that we have additional capacity to do that for outside clients. And so now we do consulting services, kind of high-level stuff like helping with business plans, strategic planning, all the way down to back office, for like running the accounting function for mostly small startups, but depending on the demand, we have a lot of capacity to kind of expand on that.
Okay. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and we actually need more of that here in Frederick, that's for sure. And we've got great startups to be able to help
Yes,
us.
we do.
So that's
Yes, we do.
actually even better.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm trying to think in terms of where to go with this. One of the things that we like to do on this is just, we call it in the trenches. So this particular business that you're working on right now, and then working on the Frederick News Post and running that, what kind of lessons have you learned that you can pass on to others? It's kind of like, don't do this. It's going to make your life miserable, going to cost you money, whatever it is. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, there's so much here. I think the thing I'm going to center in on was the decision to expand when we were running the Frederick News Post. Back in 2006, it was the best year of our company history. We were feeling really strong on the growth of Frederick. We were feeling really strong on the growth of our advertisers and all the rest of that. We had demands for more color, all these things. And we were like, oh, we need a new press, and therefore we need a new building, and therefore we need to make this huge investment.
In 2006.
In 2006 was basically kind of, the plans were in the works before then, but 2006 was really when things kind of ramped up. And despite some of our advisors' advice, who were starting to talk about the big macro trends that were hitting the large newspapers like the New York Times and the more national brands, we decided to go ahead with the project. And I think it was a healthy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8-figure project. That we used collateral from one of those family trusts that I was mentioning to fund the project. We finish right at the beginning of 2008, and we all know what happened there, right? So we're out of compliance with our loan. Our revenue took a huge hit. Circulation everything took a hit. I mean, we did scenarios like, this is what this project would look like if things go well. This is what this project would look like if things didn't go well. And this was even worse than that. And so there were some really harrowing, stressful times there where, and just a side note, I wasn't a decision maker yet, but I was involved in all of this. So I was able to learn from it without having to take the blame, right? Yeah, it was a weird situation to be in. But we did. We almost lost the business. The bank, Wells Fargo. It was Wachovia, and then switched over to Wells Fargo. Worked with a workout guy, did all this stuff, and ended up finally at the last minute getting a new loan with BB&T, and then later we moved to Frederick County Bank. Through this whole process. So. Fast forward again, and then I'm kind of telling a long story, but I'm going to try to go back and hit like the big lessons. Like I think there's 3 big takeaways from this. Fast forward again to 2013, things had more or less we had survived kind of the worst of things, but the business model was still not recovered for local independent newspapers. So I took over, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna fix this thing. This is my definition of success: is to fix this. Take it to the next generation. My daughters were alive by then, and we were working our butts off to make some improvements. And we made huge improvements on the culture. We had local advertising growth. We had digital revenue growth. We had even circulation growth. But lose one big national advertiser, we lose all that work we did plus some, and we're just working our butts off and just losing, over and over and over again. And so. We decided, we made the hard decision that we didn't have the resources to do it right, because newspapers now is really all about scale. So we're able to change my definition of success. I don't like to lose, right? I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs like to lose.
Yeah, not at all.
But I think we can get creative and change the way that we look at the world and change our definition of success. So instead of success is, I'm going to pass this along to the next generation, my definition of success was, all right, let's preserve what we currently have, and what we currently have included the family wealth, the employees, the family legacy, meaning basically the newspaper, and the independent journalism in Frederick County. And so in tweaking things that way, we were able to find a buyer for the newspaper who would be able to satisfy all of those things pretty darn well. It was Ogden, another family-owned newspaper, but instead of owning one, they owned like 50.
Makes sense.
So they had the scale to be able to make, the business model work in Frederick, where we just couldn't do that because we didn't have all that scale.
Right.
So you're asking about lessons. The first lesson I would say is listen to your advisors. Our advisors told us over and over and over again, guys, this is a big commitment, and there are these big issues in the industry that are just starting to show themselves. I don't think this is, we don't advise you to go forward on this project. We did it anyway. Next lesson, you choose your bankers and or investors wisely. We chose to work with Wachovia, which during the good times seemed fine, but as soon as the wheels fell off the bus, they were very motivated to just get rid of us at all costs. And so it wasn't until we finally developed our relationship with BB&T and then Frederick County Bank that we had a strong banking relationship with a local provider who kind of knew what was going on. We weren't just numbers. We weren't just, okay, we need to get out of the media sector. They were like, oh no, this is the Frederick News Post. These guys have been around for ages. We can trust them to make their payments and do what they say they're going to do. So that was a big lesson. Then the third lesson is really, I talked about looking at the world in a slightly different way. If I had defined success as fixing the newspaper model, and if I never deviated from that, eventually, there'd be chains up on the door. All of these things would have eroded, and it just would have been a bad scene. And so, having the perspective to kind of tweak that mindset a little bit and be like, all right, you know what? I'm not losing. I'm just winning a different thing.
A different way.
Was really helpful.
Yeah, those are great lessons.
Awesome.
I really appreciate that, and I can see where now you'll be able to apply some of those lessons with what we're doing on FITSE as well, with the Innovation Center.
I hope to.
Yeah, those will be really great. So what would you like to leave our audience with in terms of maybe a favorite book or quote, or just that one piece of advice?
Okay, I'm always really bad at picking one favorite thing.
I know.
So I'm not going to follow directions. I'll talk primarily.
Typical entrepreneur.
Talk primarily about one, but then kind of throw in another a couple of tidbits there. And because I ended up talking so much about our decision to sell, not really the decision to start things up. There was a book I read through that process that was actually I only read the first couple chapters. Like with these business books, you read the first chapter and you kind of get it, and then like you just read a little bit more to reinforce it. It's Necessary Endings. Yeah, so you know it. Super good book and incredibly important at that phase of my life because the whole premise is there are certain things that you do, certain employees, certain businesses, certain processes, things that you just end up doing that you need to cut out of your life so that you can move forward. And that's what I think we've been able to do with selling the newspaper, and then to kind of retrench and think about, well, what is the family business, and how can we continue doing these things, but without this thing that was really kind of holding us back. So that's number one, and then just a couple other books I really have to kind of throw out there. Open Book Management. It's a management philosophy, basically full transparency. When we were going through the hard things that we were going through, had we not been fully transparent with our employees, they'd wonder, why the heck are we making these types of decisions? It's because we have to. And here are the numbers. Here's why. And there's a whole lot of management philosophy behind it, but I'm a really open person, and kind of philosophically that made sense for me from a management perspective. And then finally, predictably rational. I've talked a bunch of times about looking at the world through a slightly different lens. This book really helped me to do that, and super interesting read. And I would just encourage anybody to read it.
Oh, great ones.
Okay.
I'm going to have to go read them.
Not just one, I gave you three. So.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Nice to charge.
I appreciate that. Want to give us a quote?
No, I'm not great with quotes, but I've always sort of lived by change is good.
I agree.
People tend to get so caught up in the things that they do that change is this huge, horrible, overwhelming thing. And I've lived through one of the biggest changes I could think about in my professional career, and I've come out on the other side happier and less stressed and with more opportunities. So change is good.
Very exciting. Well, I'm glad you're on the board.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm looking forward to more. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely.
So thanks for coming. I know your time's valuable.
All right.
I really do appreciate it.
Yep.
So
thanks a lot.
Thanks for watching, guys. This is In the Trenches, and you can find out more about our advisors, our board members, and everyone else that's a part of the FITSE ecosystem. Check it out on fitse.org. Thanks. Have a great day.